Hello, ski racing fans, and welcome to American Downhillers Podcast, Season 3, Episode Number 1. I'm two-time Olympian Doug Lewis, and with me is World Championship medalist AJ Kitt. AJ, where are you joining us from?
I am in Park City participating in my new job as FIS coach for the Park City ski team. Loving it.
And Chamonix Downhill champion and creator of American Downhillers, Marco Sullivan. Where are you at, Marco?
Hey guys, I am at home in Tahoe City and still mountain biking out here.
Aren't we all? Our third partner, Kitzbuhel winner Daron Rahlves, is unable to be here as he's off coaching some young American downhillers to be as fast as he was. Today, we are going to talk about the Birds of Prey downhill at Beaver Creek, which will be the first speed event of this season due to the cancellation of Zermatt speed races a few weeks ago. That's a whole nother story. And as our special guest, we have one of the current American downhillers on the U.S. ski team. He is a veteran of the U.S. ski team and has been running World Cup for 11 years, and he's coming off his best season to date on the World Cup. He's a two-time Olympian, a member of 4 World Championship teams. He's a 3-time national champion, and last year scored big at Kitzbuhel with his best ever World Cup finish, a 4th at the Hahnenkamm. Please welcome Jaread Goldberg. Jaread, where are you at, and what are you doing now until Beaver Creek race?
Hey guys, I am in Copper Mountain right now, doing some training and getting ready for Beaver Creek in about a week and a half.
Well, I know AJ and Marco want to be there training with you on Copper. Talk about the training at Copper and what kind of courses you running.
Yeah, well, Copper's really nice to be back here. You can push out of the start as hard as you want and really work on your low bull and and gliding. And so it's fun to go to a place like this after the training we were doing this summer was pretty in your face. We trained in Ushuaia for the first time, which was amazing training. It was really cool to go down there. Never have been that far south. So we got some awesome training there. And then we ended up going to Zermatt 2 months ago and trained and had a great session. But, just that glacier training and it's dark and the groomer slips around here and there and there's holes and that's really good to do. But when you can come back and have a perfect blank canvas like here, feels good.
Most Americans that get a chance to ski in the Rockies know what we're talking about with the perfect Rocky Mountain snow, corduroy. But talk a little bit about really the difference from the racer's perspective of what it's like to ski on that glacial snow at Zermatt. Anybody that skied at Mount Hood it's very similar, but then you come over to Copper and the snow is totally different, right? I mean, do you change? Talk a little bit about the snow difference and what you feel, but also is there some setup changes that you make?
So after spending some time on the glaciers in Europe, like there's no doubt in my mind, like that a lot of the Europeans are really technically good because they ski on that snow so much growing up and they go hit the glaciers more often than we do. And so the snow it doesn't hold like this, like the dry Colorado snow or even that soft snow that I had in Utah growing up or in California or anywhere in the West really. So what's different about it is that you can't be inside at all. Like the ski will just go away from you. So it's such a good drill actually to go train on that kind of snow, because when you do get back to that really clean, smooth snow that holds, you can really like have some clean arcs and the other day in downhill here, I just felt like I could really bend the ski up and go really deep and it's going to come back. So setup wise, I try not to change anything really from place to place. The only thing I was doing, the only way I could actually really make the gates when we were over in pit stall on that steep pitch, was to give myself a little bit more canting. I brought myself out a little bit with some tape strips, and that gave me at least the confidence that I could turn, because you had to be over it there. So I try not to change things too much, especially this time of year.
You're talking about being confident on that snow. It'll be kind of sweet going down just like a few miles down the road to race at Beaver Creek. Snow should be fairly similar to what you're training on now at Copper, right?
yeah, I mean, it's gonna feel money. It's gonna, like, you remember how it was, like with it's got a little bit of water in it. I think it'll hold up better. You know, I almost like when it's got a little bit more moisture in it and has a little bit of, it's there for you, but it's not like chalky. You know, it doesn't grab too much, because then then it's tough, and you almost feel like you want to over ski because it just won't allow you to release. But so I'm looking forward to that snow for sure.
Yeah, I remember going from like Copper to Lake Louise, and Lake Louise was sometimes like
Oh
pretty
my God.
slick and a lot different. But I think it'll be really nice going right over to Beaver Creek for you guys. And
Totally. Well, the problem with
get the
Lake
copper.
Louise, what was always so difficult for me is that the snow and copper is so perfect, and then you go up there and it's almost like that glacier kind of crumbly. The groomers kind of get a little lost sometimes, and it snows an inch, and they groom over the track, and so you have to be incredibly over it there, or else you're kind of tipping over, you know. So it'll be cool to not have to do that big figure eight we used to do and go up there and come back, and then, you know, so I'm looking forward to just rolling up the road and then starting a day later.
All right, we're going to move over down the road to Beaver Creek in just a second, but we have to talk about Kitzbuhel. And this is Daron Rahlves' question. He said, you got to ask Goldie. Your fourth at Kitzbuhel was insane and a big breakthrough for you. His question, was there something different to the lead up to Kitzbuhel last year? What made the difference to land you in the top 5?
The last few years, I've just felt like I was really close, and that I was like one turn away or whatever from having a pretty killer run. And I guess it was just a mixture of that, and it was a mixture of that, and also the year before I crashed really hard in Wengen in the Super G, and had a crack in my tibial plateau, and I took one day off because the Olympics were coming up, so I wanted to try to make the Olympics. So I asked the doctor, like, am I going to make it worse? And he said, if you can handle the pain, you'll be okay. So I just toughed it out and I did one of the races in Wengen. I missed one of the races, but I did one of them, and it hurt like hell. But I knew that I needed to do that run so that I was mentally confident enough to be able to push out of the gate the next week in Kitz. And so I just was skiing around kind of on a cracked leg. And the next year when I got there, I was like, well, I was in way worse shape last year. Like, and I actually had some good results the year before, and I was just kind of skiing down. I was in some top 20. So I was like, if I could do that, like in the shape I was in, why could I not really throw it in here healthy? Cause I felt great. And then the other thing was, the Rossi skis just felt a lot better to me in those conditions. Just the way they were stable and holding for me. And it was just kind of a mixture of many things that came in. But I've always loved that course. And I feel like the intensity you got to bring is really fun. And also, you know, Daron yelled at me before I went. He was above me, and he was like, come on, go Goldie or something. I don't know. I was like trying to tune out everything, but I did see him, and he was like, gave me like the thumbs up or something. And I was like, I don't know if that makes me more nervous or not, but I actually, like, it didn't. It gave me like definitely more energy to just be like, all right, let's do this. Yeah. So nothing particularly like crazy, but I just skied how I know how to ski, I guess.
Did you feel like it was top 5, or when you came down, you were podium? Did you feel it?
Like when you have like your really good runs, you know, sometimes you kind of just almost like wake up somewhere in the course, like, how did I end up here? And it was at the end of the traverse when I did that left footer and really skied down on that and just like slingshotted down the hill and was in the air like, holy crap, I'm flying. And then as I was in the air, I was like, oh, that felt pretty good. Like, we'll see. Like, I've been disappointed a million times. So like where I felt too good, you know? So, and I came through expecting to win and was what that, you know, 20th or whatever. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect really, but just kind of came off the last jump. And I remember I tried to stay really aero. The jump wasn't nearly as big as it's been in the past. So I just felt comfortable to really hold it together over that. And then, yeah, was definitely surprised when I saw, because when it was third at that point, you know, and was pretty stoked. I yelled pretty loud. So how could you not? I mean, but yeah,
I was
pretty
standing outside the finish when you came through in third, and I yelled pretty loud too. I was very stoked when I saw that, buddy. That was awesome.
Hey, Doug Lewis here, and I want to talk about the American Downhiller Speed Camp. American Downhiller is the leader in teaching young ski racers how to go fast and have fun. 2023 will mark the 6th annual American Downhiller Speed Skills Camp in Mammoth Mountain. Our speed camp is coached exclusively by current and former World Cup racers and coaches who are passionate about helping the next generation of athletes achieve their dreams. We specifically focus on aerodynamics, jumping technique, speed tactics, and the mental training required to safely navigate Super G and downhill race courses. If you are a ski racer who wants to go fast, check out our website, AmericanDownhiller.com, for all specific camp dates.
Since last spring, almost all new coaches, a couple team leaders when Nyman and Ganong are gone. I'm just kind of wondering how you guys are feeling coming into it, and how's the team vibe, and you fired up, and what's going on?
Yeah, it's definitely different than we've ever had it, for sure. I would say that we have a lot of different coaches that have come from different places, and now they're all working together. And I think in the past we've had a little bit more, like everyone's already known each other before pretty well and worked together a lot. So we've kind of had, we have coaches coming in that I think are like, this is the best guy we can have for this position, and this best guy for this position. And so it's been great actually. I mean, I think we've been very professional and like trying to get really good training and making the most of every day. I mean, when we were in Kitzbuhel in the spring, we actually got pretty hammered with bad weather, and we just skied a lot of GS on that T-bar, and it was foggy and rainy, and we kind of did a lot more than I think we would have done in the past. We were never forced to do it, It's just, if you want to keep going, like it's safe enough. Like let's work on things. Let's make the most out of today. So I think it actually, that mindset is really good, and that's how you can, if you get screwed on weather, you can still get something out of it. And yeah, as like a team, Bryce, Ryan, and I are now the old guys, and we're trying to instill a little bit of the old ways, which is difficult sometimes because everyone come from a different, like the younger guys come from a little different group, and they had their own different coaches, and we all kind of had similar coaches on coming up. I think we all skied a lot of powder and kind of had a different attitude, and it kind of started dying off, but there was like a lot of partying going on when I was younger and on World Cup, and then now everything's gotten more serious, and everybody's just, yeah, I think we're working together well. We're a little more, I guess we're getting more like maybe the tech guys were. I don't know. Less
Don't get too serious, dude.
Don't go there.
Okay, sorry. You can
Don't
cut
go
that out.
Jack.
Yeah.
We like actually have a lifting set now, and we work out.
Talk about your coaches. You have Burkhart, Florian Scheiber. Tell us who is your coaching staff and what do they bring?
Yeah, totally. So we have Berkey is Burkhart. He's the head speed coach now, and he brings in a ton of experience, and he really worked with a lot of good guys. So I feel like having conversations with him is helpful to just know that he's said the same things to guys who have won a lot of races and been successful. He's also taken some guys that weren't winners yet and helped them get to the podium. So he's good. He's actually really, really simple in his coaching. Like he talks a lot about edge change, moving to the ski. And that was something that he right when he came in at the beginning of the season, just talked about, like, I'm not going to say all these crazy things. Like, I'm just going to tell you, like, it's simple. Like, it really is simple. You need to work your way up from, making a really good edge change, and then, work on the other things you need to work on. But like, if you're not doing that right, then you shouldn't be here, So that was good. And he's very blunt too with if you're not doing something right. And that's something I've always appreciated, that kind of coaching. So it's been great with him. We have Florian Scheiber, and he was a ex World Cup athlete. Marco and I raced with him. He's a good guy. He's Austrian, and so he went and coached with the women's World Cup speed team for a while. So he has experience coaching, but he also has that experience not so long ago that he was on snow with doing those things. So I think it helps that he can communicate to you pretty well based on an athlete that still remembers what it felt like. Like you were even talking about training here, and he trained with me here. So it's kind of cool to be watching video with someone that I trained with, not so long ago. And then Austin Zavaria, who was his first year was last year with us. He's up from Sun Valley, and he's great too. He's got a lot of great things to say, and he's a good coach, and he really has been good at kind of knowing what each of us are working on, and helps in that regard. And he's a good dude to be around. And Danny is our new strength coach, which we haven't had one of those in a long time. So it's been kind of cool to have somebody there to help us in the afternoons and have a plan, and not just kind of, okay, like do this or do that, The thing is, Danny's our guy that works out with us in the summer, all summer in Park City. So we just roll right into the winter, and there's not any change ups or anything. Before, we had Per Lundstrom and only in the summer, and then we wouldn't really see him at all. So a lot of the other teams have that, where they have their guy that's with them the whole year. So I think it's helpful, and we're on the same page, and he knows what I've been working out, how much I've been lifting in the summer, and how much I should be lifting now, so I don't overdo it or underdo it or anything. So,
Hey, Goldie, I want to know a little bit about the culture. Louis and I, and he's a little older than I am. And when I came in, we sort of adopted the culture that Louis and the guys before had sort of developed and handed off. And then, it gets handed off to the next generation and the next generation. And if Daron was here, he could help sort of bridge between, my crew and Marco's crew. But, I think Marco's crew in those years is probably the most notorious because of this whole American Downhiller thing that's come out of it, the movie, and this great exposure of the culture of downhillers. And I know that you were there with Marco a little bit. The culture is set a lot of times by some key individuals, whether they're coaches or whether they're athletes. And I know that, with Steven and Travis going into retirement last year, those are some pretty strong personalities, and those guys were around for a long time. But also, I think bringing in a guy like Berkey, I got to know him a little bit more last year when he was working with the women's team, and I was helping out Trish and Mangan. And I was really impressed with Berkey. I really liked a lot of the things I heard him say. So culturally, I think, you guys have got a lot of influences, right? You've got you and Bryce, and you got the coaching staff being all new. I mean, can you get a sense right now of how this culture is getting molded and what it might look like a year from now or 2 years from now? Or what's the sense of the culture and the vibe that you guys are going to try to feed off of throughout the winter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the way it's changing. I think is I'm just thinking about when I was younger, and Marco and Steve and them were talking, just being really proud to be downhillers, and those guys, those are the slalom guys or whatever. We don't hate those guys at all, but we're just like we're like, oh yeah, like we like to go fast and go big and hit jumps, and that's that's the attitude I had growing up at Snowbird. We like to just charge, and so I don't. Bryce and I still kind of talk like that and joke around like that, but I don't think that that's going to be maybe the future. Is such like a divide there. I don't know. I always look at it like what we do is a little bit crazy and different, and doesn't always feel like the exact same sport as slalom or GS really. But not that those are not great events as well. I think you need to do those in order to be good at downhill, so they come hand in hand. But there was always just this fun, just like we're in like the American Downhiller thing. Like we're just a brotherhood, and we like to go big, and send it. And I don't know, but I don't know if that, I'm hoping that we can kind of instill that in them for the next generation to have that little bit of pride for sure.
I think that starts off with having some good results, and it sounds like you guys are on a good path, like keeping it simple and being strong and working hard. And I think your group doesn't have a whole lot of egos in it right now. You know, like you're all there to prove yourselves. And one specific question I had, just with start numbers, like I know every year the start order, they make some rule changes or whatever. Is there anything new for this year? Where are you going to be starting personally? And is it still how like the top 15 get to pick, or
No.
what's going on there?
So it's probably the most fair it's been in a while. You got the top 10 guys and get to pick, or they don't pick, they're randomly shuffled from 6 to 15. And then the next group, the 11 to 20th guys in the world, go 1 through 5 and 16 to 20. And then the rest is from 21 to 30. So I'll be in the top 20 there. So I'm a little outside that on the list, but there's 4 guys ahead of me that are done racing. Anyway, so yeah, it's like in the 1 through 5 and 16 to 20 right now is my zone, and then hoping to move up from there. But
There's a lot in our sport that's out of our control, and especially the weather and the conditions always seem to be a big piece of that. And it's always nice to be able to give opportunities for later racers to have a shot at skiing in conditions that are favorable. So I like that too. I like seeing, bib 1 through 5 go to some later ranked guys, and see some excitement, see some opportunities.
Hey, Doug Lewis here. If you've ever dreamed of traveling to Wengen or Kitzbuhel to watch the Classic World Cup downhills, then the ADL Ski Club is for you. Their small group trips are geared for passionate skiers and race fans. They take you to the heart of ski racing's biggest races at the Lauberhorn, Hahnenkamm, and Night Slalom in Schladming. This year, American downhiller AJ Kitt is leading the group to Kitzbuhel, and they have a ton of special access to the races, parties, and athletes that make this World Cup unique among all professional sports. Even though this year's trips are both sold out, right now is the perfect time to get your name on the list for next year's trips. Visit adlskiclub.com. That's adlskiclub.com and reach out to them to secure your spot. Rumor has it that I might even be joining them for one of these trips soon. All right, let's bring it over to Birds of Prey. And what is it about this course, Jaread? Explain what it's like to compete in front of the home crowd, and tell us your favorite part about this course.
So this is one of my favorite courses for sure. I'm more of a glider nowadays, so the ones that are a little flatter and smooth, more glidey, I guess, are my favorites. But I do like many aspects of this course. The top is really easy, I think. I wish that there was a little more to it, that you could really pull away from some of the more Super G-esque kind of guys. But yeah, I think that the top's kind of cool, that you can settle into a tuck and be on your skis before dropping into a steep pitch. Some of the courses like Bormio or Kitz, where you're just 0 to hero, is a little bit in your face feeling. So I like that you can push out and skate hard and sit in a tuck and kind of work the terrain. It's kind of feels good to kind of get feeling for your skis and your boots before you drop into the brink. But yeah, when the snow is perfect there, it is really fun. Like you can lay it over like you're water skiing on glass. So I love skiing the pitch. It's definitely like it's a rush for sure. That turn like right before the basketball there is always just so quick, feels so quick, and you're all I'm thinking about is getting to the right ski, which is kind of it's a weird turn because you're getting to your uphill ski like while you're going uphill, and there's a big drop off after, and it's a pretty like technical section for sure. And you're going like nobody in their right mind would ever want to tuck down that if they weren't like us racing, like it is steep. just like it looked like it was more fun back in the day when it was low bowl the whole bottom, you know. Like it's pretty turny now through Screech Owl there. Looked a touch more
When you
fun.
used to be able to fly off Screech Owl and you go straight off Screech Owl and
Yeah,
catch good air, and then that set the tone for the whole bottom because you never slowed down. You know, now how you throw in those couple super G turns on Screech Owl, I feel like it neuters the bottom of the course a little
totally,
bit,
totally.
but um, I don't know who's to say. They're always trying to make things safer and whatnot, and it probably is a bit safer, maybe not quite as much fun for the racers.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun track. The bottom it never really ends until you're at the very end. So I think that's what makes it unique is you're kind of like almost like high tucking for 3/4 of the course. You're kind of just or if not like wide open, just kind of you're not dropping into a low bowl so much down the pitch, you know. So I like it. I think I'm curious to see how I feel this year going straight from Copper to there. I think going home for a few days and then going up to Lake Louise and being on completely different snow on a completely different track and then coming back has always been kind of funky to try to get used to those different conditions. And so this time we're going straight from almost the exact same conditions and right up the road. So I'm thinking it'll feel hopefully better this year.
Are you guys going to take a break between Copper and Beaver, or are you just moving your bags straight over?
Pretty much moving straight over. Yeah, we have a day off between. We're not really killing ourselves here too much. Like we skied 2 days on, took a day off, 3 days on, day off, and then 2 days on. So we're not really going crazy. The coaches are thinking about energy levels for sure and trying to not overdo it. But I think we kind of need to get caught up. Everybody does, you know, like no one's had great training in the last month and a half anywhere in the world really. So we just need to get some miles in. So we're doing it in a pretty smart way.
My thing I loved about Beaver Creek, and I did race it once, believe it or not, yeah, it was just the flow, like the air and the flow and the speed. I mean, it just felt great. I agree with you. Like the top section, gliding, getting into it, got a couple of rollers, pumping, and then you just kind of slowly start to accelerate until you're over the brink. But from that point forward, I love the flow of that course, and I loved all the air. It's an exciting one. I think it's a great one for you guys to really start on because I think after that you'll got to feel like you're ready for anything.
Yeah, it is like thankfully the snow is good there because I think if it were like kind of more European snow, that course would be like really gnarly. So
yeah,
it's thankfully it's got that nice Colorado grip on it, and yeah, it's like an intense course for sure. But thankfully you can use the snow to control yourself around the gates a little bit and the terrain. But
Wend produces a sophisticated line of ski and snowboard waxes for use by skiers, riders, racers, and shops. The current Wend Snow Wax formulations have come from over 50 years of progressive blend reformulation and on-slope and in-lab testing. This has been in conjunction with the feedback of some of the world's top ski and snowboard athletes. Athletes who know real speed, like Kitzbuhel champ Daron Rahlves and 2019 Birds of Prey GS champion Tommy Ford. Wend no longer sells any products containing fluorocarbon compounds and instead utilizes natural, plant-derived and/or biodegradable additives that substantially increase the overall eco-friendliness of the Wend Snow Wax product line. Give Wend a follow on Instagram at Wend Waxworks and purchase your Wend products at wendperformance.com. And don't forget to use the code ADH20 for 20% off your purchase.
So when I raced, our America's downhiller was Aspen, and my parents came and my sister and brother came, and the energy was huge. I know AJ, you did both, but Marco, I remember calling your races when half of your family was there across the world. Talk about having the fans and family. Does that help or put more pressure? I'm going to start with Marco and then go to Jaread.
I think for me, I can never figure out if it was a hindrance or not, because I love to have everybody there, but then you end up like, hanging out with your family at all hours, and you're like, yeah, I'd see my dad after inspection and he'd be like, come on, son. Like it was super cool, but it's also that extra amounts of pressure upon yourself. And I think my best ever result in Beaver Creek, I was sixth the first time I raced it. And then I never was able to match that. So maybe having, maybe being fresh with no fans was possibly better, but I enjoyed the camaraderie of the crowd and the fans nonetheless.
Jared, who's going to be there for you? And do you like having it at home? Frees you up or tightens you up?
I don't know what to think about it either. You want it. I'm not going to not let them come. So going to deal with it either way. I think I think it can be helpful for sure. I'm going to have my parents there and girlfriend Sarah, and sometimes other people in your friends and family show up and you see them. And I think I just am usually pretty like straightforward before they go and just say, hey, I'm going to be pretty busy. I might hardly see you, at least, and then in the evenings I'll see them more often. But I don't think people understand how busy we are on a race week, and we don't really have a ton of time. And especially when we're at home, we're doing signings and have other obligations we have to go do, and trustee dinners and whatever. So I think it is a lot, but it's kind of what we have to do. It's part of our job. So sometimes you got to do it. If you're feeling it, it's fine, but there are distractions being at home. But we also have the benefit of being comfortable on this kind of snow, and I can drive my own truck there, and like those little things that we don't usually have when we're over in Europe, or that are advantages of the other teams, or like can be our advantages. So knowing that I'm only like 6 hours away from Utah is also nice. Like I'm not home, but I'm in America. There's the talent crew guys and gals are all fired up, and they're that's probably the biggest thing for me, is that kind of evens out the stress of being with a lot of people that is like just how stoked the talent crew is, and all the volunteers are fired up that you're there. And I've had like some days where they're pretty tough races and I didn't do well, and they're like, they don't care. They're just like, how was it? Like, it's so great to watch you. You were really flying off that turn there, that jump. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess I was. Like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like, these guys are fired up, and you're just trying to inspire people, really. So I think it's less about you here and like more about like just being an American showcasing the sport.
It's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great shout out for the talent crew. Those guys are
Yeah.
some of the best,
Well,
hardworking.
My dad's been doing the talent crew for like the whole time I've been doing the race. So even when I was forerunning, so it's kind of, that's cool too, is he's texting me like, hey, like if there's weather, like, oh, it's looking pretty good up here actually. Like,
Your dad giving you course reports?
yeah,
Getting a little chattery around the coach's island here.
I'm pretty sure one year he sent a picture of like this avalanche that happened on the top part or something. So I had the intel, I was like, check it out from the brink,
After a training run, you have sources of information, right? You have the timing, intermediate times, you have the video of yourselves, and you have other video. How do you utilize the information from a training run, and how do you get that information? How do you use it?
The video is important to like really look at the video every night. Looking at the splits is important too. My technician Greg is seeing what skis are running, and this year we have a whole new thing with the no Floros that we're like probably going to be testing out waxes, and that's a whole nother thing we can talk about. But trying to see what skis running, how I skied. If I was really fast on one split, I don't really pay attention that much to that one. I look more at the ones I need to maybe make up a little bit more time.
How about you, Marco? How much did intermediate times play a role in video? Who did you watch?
Well, I was actually, the split times I've noticed, I don't think I studied them as much when I was a racer. Now that I've been out of racing for a while and I started commentating a little bit, I've actually started to like study split times more and the history of certain splits on certain courses. And looking back on the winner of the race, there tends to be these similarities of which splits they're fast on certain courses. And I think if I could go back to, or just talking to Jared about it, like just identifying those splits on a course that are generally like really contributing toward gaining a lot of speed on, taking a lot of speed out of that section or into the next section, or how it develops over the whole track. And it's just been really interesting kind of looking at that from the other perspective. And I think I probably would have done more of that as a racer if I'd been more tuned into it. I don't remember, like, I always looked at my own splits and was like, oh, I can clean that up or whatever. But studying the course and the splits compared to the winners over the years is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was something Jono used to do, is like write down the best splits from the years before of the guys that were winning, and usually there's a section that you basically have to be fast on that section in order to be on the podium or whatever. So it kind of narrows down where you should look. What section do I need to just be like, even if I'm in there, like what section do I just need to be decent in to give myself a chance to be fast at the bottom? So
For sure. And I feel like almost all courses have that section where you need to pay attention a little bit more, and maybe sections where you can not let off the gas. But if you're going to let your mind wander a little bit, there's maybe a couple spots you can do that. And there's those sections where you got to be like super on it.
yeah.
What do you think is what's the critical section at Beaver Creek, Marco? What do you think?
Well, let me start before this, Marco, because I thought I was thought about the top flats, and I'm like, having called this race, you cannot be more than 2/10 out. You can't be more than 10th place on the top, or else you just pull over. But in the last 10 years, like 3 times, people have come back from up to 6/10 out on the top flats and made it up on the bottom. So that whole thing I thought was like, you have to be within 2/10 of the flats on top. You have to, but it doesn't. People have been winning it all over the place.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think that the most important part of Beaver Creek is over Pump House, around Roosie's Ride, and the left footer around the island above Screech Owl. I'm not exactly sure I can't remember what they call the left footer, the big sweeping corridor there, but the speed you can carry over Screech Owl.
Maybe? Isn't it Pizzarina?
Oh, Pizzarina is higher up, like
Okay.
on the pitch.
It's Roosie's Ride, and I don't know what the left.
Roosie's Ride's the right foot triple, and there's the left foot triple, and the speed you can carry out of that kind of dictates, what the speed you're going to take into Golden Eagle and the Abyss and all that. And I feel like I've seen that's a lot of times the guys who win that split or win that speed trap are on the podium or close to it.
Yeah, I mean that is like the most rage section too. Like you're all in there, and you just got past the basketball turn, and if you do that really well, then you're a little more left, and you didn't get pushed as much, and then you're just full on fall line, and then that left footer there is always super ripply, So like being clean and strong on that one before that kicker at the end, like a lot of times I've like just fully starfished coming out of that. Because it's hard because you're in such a solid, strong position to hold, like, and you're going like 90, and you're like trying to hold a big side hill with those big ripples, but then there's a kicker at the end, and then another turn the opposite direction. So it's like it's tough to not be stiff legged still. I also think you got to be like charging at the very bottom as well. Come out of the Abyss, and then you come over Harrier, and then it's like those last 2 turns there, you got to be confident and like piping those.
Who's been well on those last 2 turns is Foyts. He's whatever.
Yeah.
Foyts has won that race in that section a couple times. Amazing.
Is that a spot you think you can cut line though? Like those last 2 turns, can you like try to trim line and maybe take more of a direct line into that final jump to trim some time off?
You should ask TJ Landon about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the first training run, 100%. You can like go wherever you want because it's just it's a 90-degree angle to the gate. But by the time everyone's slipped it and it gets dished and you get those like shuffleboardy waves, like it's tough. Like you get bumped a little bit low there, and then you're rushed, and then there's those groomer marks usually in that compression there. So I do think you should push the line there for sure, but like when it's not smooth, it's kind of hard to like to really push it. But last year I was actually trying to aim as close as I could to that right footer, and the snow was a little better in there, and then that helps to just kind of stay out of the crappy snow or the waves, I guess, like to keep your ski smooth. So there's a couple different lines you can do in there. Foyt's always was on like the bad boy line for sure. Did
Helps
you?
to have the mass and the density that Foyt's has. He can pretty much pick the line he wants. I mean, the Kugelblitz goes anywhere it wants to, right?
One of my cuts on the course is it's short, 139. I think downhill should be 2 minutes. However, talk about how tired you are at 9,000 feet, at the fact that this thing never stops once you hit the brink. Is it tiring course, and what do you feel like at the finish?
Yeah, it's pretty tiring. It's definitely not the most tiring. When the light's flat, it can get more into you're pretty gassed. But it's more of a sprint for sure. I think but then you throw in, if it's cold, then you got that cold air that you're huffing on. So then you get that like kind of downhiller cough, and it really depends on the year. Like the warm years, it's not that bad. The colder years, you really breathing hard. And so if I'm skiing efficiently and well and like in a good position, then I'm not as gassed as when I'm like bending the tail and like sitting back and trying to like recover the whole way down. So
No, I think like what you just said, it was definitely not the most tiring. I remember not being able to like push pretty hard on those last 3 jumps, and not being too gassed, but you're definitely like huffing when you're in the finish. It's like you're out of breath, but maybe the strength component is still there.
yeah, it'll be interesting this year, we always go to Lake Louise, and Lake Louise is longer and you're tucking a lot more, and the snow's maybe not as good sometimes. And like sometimes I'd be like feeling pretty stumpy at the bottom, and depending on how I skied and if I was tense or whatever. And so it always felt like doing that longer course first, but it felt a little more tiring. And then coming back to Beaver, it was like, oh, this is fine. It's not that bad. But
I'm going to keep going here because I love this course, but I want the Golden Eagle to be bigger again. What's your thoughts on airtime? Marco and maybe Jared, you ran it when it was big air off of that thing. Talk about, can we get more air, and is it safe? And specifically Golden Eagle.
I always liked flying off that jump. It's like such a nice long landing. You can kind of, no matter how big they sent it, I feel like it was always a nice steep landing before you went into the abyss. So yeah, I would like to see it bigger, but I'm not running it anymore. So that's a pretty, I don't know if that answer really matters, but I'm interested to hear what Jared says.
yeah, I've always loved that jump. It's big, and you're usually pretty high off the ground. So sometimes it can be quite the slapper. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not maybe moving over it well enough, because some jumps you just kind of roll over it and just make a good move. And the last years it's been smaller but pretty sharp actually. So you still make a move and you fly pretty far. The landing can be pretty slappy sometimes, but yeah, the bigger the better, I think. What's cool about that particular jump is that you're actually in the air and you can like have your hands behind your back and you're kind of feeling yourself flying. You have enough seconds in the air where you're like you able to kind of be like, oh, this is cool, I'm flying, and then you land, and then you got the bish jump, which is like one of the more fun, in my opinion, turns on that course. Is just like that, just a kind of loaded right footer with a double after. I really hope this year that they have that nice double that you can clear, because it definitely makes that whole bottom section, I think. Just being able to like launch and land left foot and touch your left foot, go over here, you're like on edge is definitely more fun than when you're kind of just skipping over the whatever's there. So hopefully that's there.
I think every downhill should be mandatory to have a 200-foot jump in it. I mean, it to me, it's an essential part of the sport. And I think I mean, I was so disappointed last year when the finish jump at Kitzbuhel was basically a roll. I mean, you almost had to stiff leg it to get some air. You know, my favorite fly off jump is the middle jump at Kittzbuhel. You know, that's like a 200 footer on a good
Oh, yeah.
day. And I mean, that's just easy. That's just a flight. That's just like a gratuitous flight, you know, doesn't take anything to just land that one. But yeah, I mean, the bigger the better, the more air the better. I love Val Gardena. I feel like Beaver Creek to me is just like Val Gardena, that sort of that middle third of the course. You're like in the air all the time. And you know, those sequences when you're like you talk about with the abyss where you land on one foot, you know, from one jump, take off on another, land on the next backside, another jump coming up. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And you know, that's the kind of thing that we teach at the American Downhiller camps a lot is sequencing these jumps and these turns together. And it's really such a great, unique part of our sport. And I'm really sad to see a lot of it going away. But I'm also hopeful that Beaver Creek is going to bring us some good airtime viewing.
Doug Lewis here. If you are a U12, U14, or U16, Elite Team fitness camps are for you. This is not your average fitness camp as we teach the vital skills of sports psychology and sports nutrition along with tough, challenging workouts. You will leave camp with more power, strength, and agility, with a deeper understanding about nutrition and with the mental skills of confidence, focus, and pushing limits, which will take you to the next level. Over our 30 years, we have coached Olympic champions, World Cup stars, NCAA champions, including U.S. ski teamers Michaela Schifrin, Lauren Masuga, Alice Merriweather, Jimmy Krupka, Grace Henderson, and Sammy Worthington. And finally, although we push our limits to the edge, we have a ton of fun. We are holding 2 week-long sessions this July at the Killington Mountain School. Find all the info at eliteteam.com.
I was going to touch on one thing that you mentioned, Jared, with the no Floros this year. How's that looking? Do you guys have to like scrap all your old skis? How do you deal with that?
So there's obviously been a lot of talk about it, and the technicians have been kind of flipping out at times, but they just didn't have a lot of answers on what was going to happen, what, you know, if we were going to test, and if somebody had the wrong numbers, or like, are they going to get DQ'd every time, or like how, you know, there wasn't a lot of answers about it. So basically, if you take a very fluorinated old downhill ski and you can get the Floros out enough to get it underneath the levels that they've made. So they just raised the levels from, I think it was at 1.2 or something on like whatever the scale is. It was 1.2 and they made it 1.8 because I guess they tested a bunch of skis and they were like coming in a little too close to it. So 1.8 is the magical line, whatever that 1.8 means, with the variables that we already have in this sport, and we're just adding more variables.
Did they test it Zermatt after the training run, or they only, I mean, just to gather information, or
They did, yeah.
They did, yeah, and
they were
no failures.
I don't know. They weren't talking about it. Like some guys heard numbers, some people didn't hear. Some people were told no numbers, you're not allowed to hear the numbers, and some people knew all the numbers. So it was like, it's just one more thing we got to do. We come through and we're getting our boot height checked, and then some people are getting their skis checked for wax, you know? So I don't know why they were testing it there. They already had the chance to do it other times, but you know, nobody seems to know what's going on with it. I think I hope that there aren't any like phony DQs this year. It's not very cool to the athletes, but I think the technicians are pretty like dialed in now. Like I think they figured out that that Solden DQ was actually like somebody had a cork that had some Floros in it. So like everything else they did was legit, but they had a fluorinated cork. Things like that can make it spike. So
and was, yeah, I mean, that test was after the race though, right? I mean, after she had skied on the ski. So how is there still fluoro on the ski if it's just a little cork? I don't get that.
No idea.
Yeah.
That's what they
See, that's the problem with this whole thing is like the testing's irregular, it's inconsistent, and there's just too many questions.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of questions.
I hate it. I mean, I'm okay with like trying to protect everybody and make sure that we're all safe and don't have, you know, harmful chemicals around. But I mean, we got a lot of work to do on getting this testing thing right.
Jared, I'm going to put you on the spot. Had a great year last year, your first top 5, 4th at Kitzbuhel. What are your goals, results wise, for this year?
I mean, I'd like to get onto the podium for sure. I'd I'd like to be consistent. I think like last year I was close on a few other races where I was so close to being like I had issues where I like fell or something. So, but was really having a good run. So like I'd like to just put it together more often. And I think I finally feel like I'm at the age where I have the experience, like I'm ready, you know?
Well, we're going to be fully behind you, the American Downhillers and all your fans. We are psyched to see you. You know you're strong. You have the technique. You've got the confidence now. So we're going to be psyched to see you on the podium.
Hell yeah, we'll be watching.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
said you're a glider now, so it's all coming together.
Yeah, I feel like, is it just when the older you get, the more glider you become?
Yeah. I mean, I remember you snapping off some pretty nasty Super G turns. I don't know if you can totally call yourself a glider, but you got both skills now. So it's all coming together.
Thanks everybody for listening and watching to our American Downhiller Podcast Season 3. Special thanks to the Stifel US Ski Team member Jaread Goldberg, and we hope that he realizes his dream of a podium finish this season. Jaread is one of the hardest working athletes on the World Cup circuit. Hey, please spread the word about the podcast, share with your friends, coaches, teammates, and ski club. You can find us either on Spotify or Apple or on YouTube. And thanks to our American Downhiller sponsors, skiracing.com, ADL Ski Club, Wend Wax, Elite Team Fitness Programs, and American Downhiller Camps. Stay tuned for more American Downhiller podcasts this year as we head to Europe for the classic Val Gardena downhill, where the American Downhillers have had a ton of success. For AJ, Daron, Marco, and Jaread, thanks for listening.